What's going on, people? It is your boy Soulfist, and I'm going to be here with a quick video. Well, I don't know how quick this is going to be, but it should be relatively quick. But recently, Angry Joe has made a very bad Avengers review. I believe it was yesterday. It's. I'm a huge fan of Angry Joe. Actually, I watch his content for years now. I think he's very funny. I love a lot of the running gags in his channel, like 4 hours, and yeah, you're my. I think Angry Joe's a really funny dude. But and I also think he's a really good reviewer. But this review was absolutely fucking terrible. Now, full disclosure, I don't care if you don't like this game. You don't have to like this game. You're not gonna like every game that comes out. Two, I do like this game, but what I'm about to speak on has nothing to do with the fact that I like this game. So there you go, disclosures. What the purpose of this whole video is to break down Angry Joe's criticism of this game, because I watched that whole review and he did not criticize this game. He did not criticize the game for how it's made. He criticized the game for what he wanted it to be. That's a terrible review. That has nothing to do with the actual game and how it functions. He did have some criticism of the game and how it functions, but they were very quaint to be perfectly honest. And for his overall score of the game to be a 4 out of 10, this is not a 4 out of 10 game. 4 out of 10 players, the game is bad. The game is bad. Like that, the game doesn't work. That's 100% not true. Now, I will say some things. This game was released, I guess you could say, in a buggy state. I did not experience, in my hours and hours and hours of gameplay this game, a lot of the bugs people talking about being unable to finish missions and stuff like that. The most I experienced, sorry about that, experience was here and there a few crashes, which annoyed the hell out of me, or sometimes the enemy would get stuck in a wall or something. But then I just like reload the checkpoint, and then if I couldn't just shoot them through the wall, which I could most of the time. Now that does not mean that the bugs people wrote down and categorized and put in the forums doesn't exist. But and then people have stated they've experienced some things post the patch that has been launched. I have not, but that doesn't mean that it's not happening. But that is a legit criticism to have. Games should not be released in hyper buggy states to where they feel unplayable to some people. I did not experience that, but I'm also not going to defend that. And now that might be his only legit criticism of the game as to how it functions as a game. Very disappointing in this review. If I think of another one, I will, because I watched it yesterday. I'll start breaking down his very weak criticisms, because all of this adding up does not equal to a game being made in a shitty condition to where it should be 4 out of 10. I'll start with some of the more ridiculous ones. He criticized the game aesthetically, which is typically fair. You do not have to like, I mean, if you just don't like the way a game looks, you don't like the way a game looks. I hear a lot of people say Breath of the Wild is a fantastic game. I do not take that away from them. I'll never play it because I just don't like the aesthetic design of how the game looks. It's just not for me. The same with a lot of Nintendo properties. That's why I don't play Nintendo games. That being stated, that's not me saying the games are bad because I don't like the way it looks. One of his most ridiculous ones was that he was saying he was upset that this game was not, instead of being licensed towards just the Marvel universe in general, he wished the movies would have been, the game would have been licensed towards the Marvel cinematic movies in the MCU universe, so where the characters will look like, they'll have the appearance and look like the actors who play the heroes in this film. And then he goes on to elaborate on that, saying that since they don't have the license, that the characters look like knockoff versions of the actors or something. This is just fucking ridiculous. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, Joe, do you realize that Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, fucking I'm about to say Natasha Romanoff, fucking Scarlett Johansson, ScarJo, like, these people were hired to play Chadwick Boseman, etc. They were hired to play these characters because they resemble the comic book characters. Steve Rogers will always be a fucking strong-jawed, blonde-haired, blue-eyed dude. Tony Stark will always be a tan, brown-haired man with like a mustache, goatee combo, etc., etc. Natasha Romanoff will always be a fair-skinned, red-headed. Do you see what I'm saying? So the actors were hired because they look like the characters they're portraying. So how the hell, if the actors were hired because of their resemblance to the actual comic book characters, how are you saying that the game characters don't have enough resemblance to that? They're supposed to resemble what the fucking character traditionally looks like. Regardless if Captain America looks exactly like Chris Evans, he's portraying what Captain America typically and traditionally looks like. Do you understand? That doesn't make any goddamn sense. That's like me saying that Captain America and Earth's Mightiest Heroes is a bad design for Captain America because he does not look like Chris Evans. That's a completely fucking retarded thing to even criticize the game for. If you don't like the overall design, color scheme, etc., models and stuff of the game, sure. But to say that you don't like it because they don't look enough like the movie counterparts is ridiculous. They're modeling what the character traditionally and classically looks like. Not every interpretation of Captain America looks exactly the fucking same. I've seen so many shows where he looks drastically different in terms, in general, of what he looks like, but the same features will always be there to signify that he's fucking Steve Rogers. Do you get what I'm saying, Joe? That's utterly fucking retarded. Joe went on early in his review to say that the characters, well, a good chunk of his criticisms came from the story mode. Now, I will say this wholeheartedly. I did not necessarily play the story mode, in the sense that I did play it from start to finish, but I skipped most, if not all, the cutscenes, and the ones I didn't skip, I was watching YouTube videos or something, because I didn't give a fuck about what this game's story was. It was very uninteresting. I was simply interested in playing the game for the gameplay, for the mechanics of the game. Any and all complaints you have about the story, I can't necessarily comment on, because one, they don't necessarily matter to me, and two, this game's story was literally, they said it themselves. So just like it's there to have a story to launch you into what the game is supposed to be, just to have something to do or to look at. You know what I mean? Whether you like it or not, fine. But not every Marvel story is dipped in gold and is a fucking classic like The Man with No Fear or some shit like that, or Demon in a Bottle. You know what I mean? Sometimes a story is supposed to be just a serviceable story. Is the story overall bad and full of plot holes? I don't know. I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. But he didn't even mention anything like that. He was just stating the fact that it focused too much on Kamala Khan and etc. and that the characters don't behave like themselves, whatever that means. And he had a whole segment that was ridiculous about like Tony not having enough money or something like that, or even something as ridiculous. Like he had a whole portion of his review where he was that one of his criticisms of the game was that Iron Man's password is "I am Iron Man." Whatever, you don't have to like that. You don't have to think the joke is funny. But let's come on, let's not act like Tony never fucking said that. It's literally one of his catchphrases. It was his last line of dialogue in the MCU. It was his last line of dialogue in the first Iron Man movie. It's something he says all the time. His theme song goes like, "I am Iron Man." It's one of his catchphrases. The fact that it's Tony Stark's password is inconsequential. That's nothing to criticize the game for. You don't think the joke is funny? Fine. But that's a terrible point to add into your review for keep in mind, every point he mentions in his review is supposed to give you the reason why he thinks the game's a 4 out of 10. That's fucking stupid. He went on to say early in his review that the characters don't play like themselves. That's ridiculous. All these characters do exactly what you expect they would do. And then went on later in his review to state that when they do play like themselves, it's not fun. Completely subjective. I have no idea what that means. I find this game to be incredibly fun. He then went on to say, I don't even know what that means. He went on to make more criticisms about the gameplay, about how I just can't get over that point. The characters don't play. What do you want Iron Man to do? What do you want Captain America to do? What do you want Hulk to do? They're doing what they do. Like how do they not play like themselves? He gave no attempts to elaborate. It's like, why is Iron Man doing this? What he should be. He made no points to refer back to. He just said they don't play like themselves. Yes, the fuck they do. Iron Man flies around. He shoots lasers. He shoots rockets. He shoots repulsors. Black Widow has guns and does flips and kicks and it's the most retarded thing I've ever heard in my life. He then go on to say that what was his point, because he contradicted the point and so he went on to say that the gear has the worst gear system he's ever played in any game ever. And his sole reasoning for this is because the gear does not cosmetically change the way your character looks. That is beyond fucking retarded. You cannot like the fact that the gear doesn't change the way your character looks, but it's not as the game presents you with no options to change the way your character looks. And no, you do not have to spend money to change the way your character looks, like he said in his review. You absolutely do not. I spent no money in this game, and I have a plethora of costumes for characters that I don't even fucking really even play with like that. Simply by just opening up chests and getting credits, or completing hero challenge cards and getting fucking the little gear thingies, whatever the hell they're called, hero points, whatever, to buy stuff from the store. Which I'm going to tackle that do that at the end of the video, to go over his criticisms with the game's microtransaction system. personally, he compared it to Destiny, how well you equip different gear and the gear does different things, and they change the way your character looks. But that's not even 100% true, and that's also like neither here nor there. And my reasoning for that um, rebuttal is that, like, one of my main gripes with Destiny is, let's say I had a chess piece or an arm piece or something, and I liked what it did in terms of stats and abilities of my character, but I did not like the way it looked, so I just didn't fucking wear it because I hated the way it fucking looks. I'm glad this game does not tie down your cosmetic options to your stat options at the same time, because any game that does that is just, it's a bad system, because you're forcing me to choose between fashion and stats. You see what I'm saying? Now, I think DC Universe has the best system with this, where you can equip whatever you want stat-wise, and then you can also cosmetically, like, I'm going to equip this arm piece or whatever the fuck, but make it look like this arm piece. So there's the gear, then each gear comes with a skin. That's a good option if you want to do the whole, oh, I like this trench coat that I got 3 levels ago, but this little jacket I got has better stats. So I'm going to put on the jacket and make it look like the trench coat. This game does something else entirely, where you just have entire skins to put on and then you have gear to equip. But the fact that your gear is not tied to appearance is, I honestly do not see that as a negative. And it's like the game gives you no options to change your appearance. Secondly, he then at one point said that the gear doesn't, like, the gear is useless, it doesn't do anything. But then go on to, at the end of his review, say, well, technically speaking, the gear does do stuff, but, like, and his literal quote was, who wants to make a ranged Hulk or like a melee focused Hawkeye? Maybe the fucking person that wants to make a range Hulk or a melee fucking Hawkeye. And even to that, that's not even the fucking correct criticism, because you can't stack Hulk out to be a melee focused build. You can change his L2, the properties of his L2 button to make it do more stuff and apply different effects or be more powerful, but it will not change the way the Hulk is meant to play. You're still meant to play Hulk by charging forward, using rage to absorb attacks and heal yourself, and tank and heal your and allies and stuff like that. The fundamental way Hulk plays, his build, will never be so drastic that I can just, oh yeah, if I'm not throwing rocks at people, I don't do no damage for Hulk. That's ridiculous. Oh, I'm gonna get into some of his damage criticisms later. To say that this game's gear doesn't do anything is utterly fucking stupid. And by that point, I can tell Joe has not really got any character to a noticeably high level. I mean, Iron Man, the gear cap right now, the gear score cap is 150. My Iron Man's maybe like 139 or something like that, but it's simply out of choice. I have a plethora of base 130 gear that I can boost and push him to 150 whenever I feel like it. I'm actually just swapping out and switching out different pieces right now and trying to see which builds I like with him the most. And specifically, I'm trying to get one particular arm piece to drop so I can, because that's the one I really want to keep the most and main that arm piece. My bad, range piece. I want to put pin particles on his lasers and stuff like that, but even with that being stated, the gear does dramatically affect the way your character plays. Even something as simple like my Iron Man personally. I have a gear piece that adds a lot of cryo damage to his attacks, like his signature attacks and his heavy and his light attacks, I believe, and other things. The reason why I do this is because whenever I launch somebody or whenever I slam on the ground from the air, I'll freeze everything around me, which would then purposely, for the way I like to play, once an enemy is frozen and they're in the air, the juggle potential you could do on them is crazy because they're falling in slow motion. That's dramatic. If you don't have a way to do that, you would not be able to get that juggle potential. The gear does dramatically way to change the way your game plays. From as simple as to, it dramatically changes the way your game plays. And even with that being stated, he would go on to say how, he never really mentioned the gameplay or how the game plays. And as someone who's been watching Joe for a while, I've seen him play games like, say, like a Street Fighter or a Mortal Kombat or something, or Marvel vs. Capcom or something like that, or a Tekken. He's not good at them. I'm not knocking him. I'm not saying you have to be a fucking FGC die-hard, amazing, one frame fucking loops and shit. I'm not saying you have to be that good at these games. But my problem is when people who don't really know what they're doing and lack the skill or the capacity to be able to do it, then try to criticize something and say it doesn't have something. For reference or a reminder, a while back when One Piece Burning Blood came out, you had people like Afro Syndrome and Rhyme Style, fucking lame asses, because they were saying shit like, well, this game doesn't have no depth. You just mash one button and that's all you can do. No, nigga, that's all you can do. How dare you sit here and say that you're factually spitting wrong information, to say that there's nothing you can do, or there's no combos and there's no gameplay depth or variety. You just suck at the game. You don't know what you're doing, and then you're making a a claim and a statement in your video, and like I feel like as someone with as many followers, someone like Joe has, or said like Rhyme Style or After You Send You back then, like you should not spread factual misinformation because you're just not telling the truth. You not knowing how to do the advanced stuff does not mean it doesn't exist. I can pull up a plethora of stuff from I done myself, or just videos on YouTube of people doing insane crazy, using the game's physics, juggle mechanics, and gear and stuff to to do some insanely high level gameplay and stuff. To say that doesn't exist, it's just factually wrong just because you don't know how to do it. Another thing he was stating was that nothing does damage. I believe he referred to Iron Man's Unibeam as a wet noodle. Nothing does damage. I'm playing with these powerful characters and none of these enemies damage. Well, my dude, what kind of gear do you got on? What are your stats looking like? Where's your DPS? What's your resilience? I get one shot. What's your resiliency at? That doesn't make any fucking sense, because I know personally, as someone who mains Iron Man or even other characters, but since I know how to stack fucking stats and calculate and use mechanics like overcharge and my support abilities to boost my own base damage and combine my abilities, because I know how to use a fucking skill tree. When I unibeam something, I'm gonna, like say, if I unibeam an Adaptoid, not only would I shred its overshield, but it's gonna be at least its overshield plus half its health and then some. It's gonna be damn near dead. So that little clip you show, I just unibeam and it didn't do any damage. First of all, wasn't it like at the beginning of the game story? Secondly, what the hell did you have on? You know what I mean? To say, oh, you can't do no damage in this game. Not true. You're not stacking yourself correctly to do damage. This is my problem with his review. There's a lot of things he was saying that was just factually incorrect, not the truth. And it's a terrible criticism because the only question is like, well, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you? No, you didn't. Okay, you know what I mean? Like, God, that shit is so fucking annoying. He went on to say that you have to. That he complained about how the characters that are the free characters that are coming out are gonna have paid battle passes, and that's all he said. But he didn't even go into what the hell these things were. These battle passes everybody's getting up in arms about, or the hero challenge cards that are already on the first 6 default characters in this game. The only thing you unlock in these challenge cards are like nameplates, costumes, and ironically enough, currency to spend on DLC and outfits and stuff that comes out. And funny enough, you complete one challenge card, and then you'll have enough money, if you in-game currency, if you save it up, to buy a challenge card. Do you see what I'm saying? So like say if you complete Iron Man, Caps, Thor, Hulk, whatever, you could not even if you do half of all of theirs, by the time the first DLC character come out, you'll have enough money to just get their fucking challenge card. You would not have to spend money on it. Like, you complete that character challenge card, you can get another challenge card. You literally do not have to spend money. And I think at one point he acknowledges, he's like, but who wants to do it that way? You're forcing me to. No one's forcing you to do shit, Joe. No one's forcing you to spend any money. This game has no option whatsoever. I'm the type of gamer where I don't really care about cosmetic stuff. So I care about the game and how it plays. So I'm not too upset about the cosmetic thingies. But even though there's also nothing to be upset about, because at literally no point in this game do you have to spend money. And you're portraying it like you have to spend this money. There is nothing in this game that is locked behind that will limit you from gameplay wise, that is locked behind a paywall. There's not a character, there's not like a secret move or something like that. And anything that is behind a type of paywall, you can earn the fucking currency for it inside the game. Why would I want to spend $10 on a takedown? You don't have to. I bought both of Iron Man takedowns and never spent a dime on it. Like, oh no, I bought the takedown for Iron Man and Black Widow. No, I mean I got the takedown for Iron Man and Black Widow. There was one I did spend some on because I had some extra cash, but like, but that's not here or there. Joe, this review was terrible, and I should have did this video yesterday when I collect my dogs, because I have not watched it since I watched it yesterday. But there's a lot of things I remembered you saying that was just outright either false or just a dumb criticism. You spent very little time talking about how this game was and criticizing for that, and you spent the time bitching because it wasn't what you wanted to be. It's a looter, Joe. What do you want it to do? The purpose of the game is to run around, beat up stuff, and collect loot. That's like me complaining, man, Borderlands isn't like fucking Ghost Recon. What a fucking course not, because Ghost Recon isn't a fucking looter. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, and to say stuff like, oh man, it's repetitious enemies and all you do is and go around and fight enemies. That's the purpose of the game. It exists for that reason. To grind it out, play online, collect gear, and create different builds and fuck with your stats. That's why the game exists. That would be like me making a whole review talking about how Dynasty Warriors is bad because all you do is run from territory to territory, beat up the same enemy types over and over again, conquer the field, and then go on to the next stage. I love Dynasty Warriors, Pirate Warriors, etc. How could you criticize the game for what it's trying to do? You could criticize it if it fails to do what it's trying to do, but if it does what it's trying to do correctly, how could you possibly criticize it for that? Well, all you do in Madden is throw a ball and someone catches it and then they run and get tackled. Well, shit, Madden is a football game. Do you see what I'm saying? How fucking retarded of a criticism that is? Why couldn't this game be? His literal complaint was this game should have been more like Ultimate Alliance or been more like this. Like, dude. That's not what the game is trying to be. That's not what the game ever claimed it was going to be. Everybody played the beta and they told you what the game was going to be when they did their fucking war tables and presses and shit like that. They told you, bro, this is an online, cooperative looter brawler. The purpose of the game is to pick your character, run around, beat stuff up, go to the next level, do that. If you want to have complaints about level design, and maybe that he did not. You want to have complaints about like mission types, he did not. You want to have complaints about, this is what I'm saying. If the game set out to be one thing, how could you criticize it for being the thing it set out to be because you wanted it to be something else? It's fucking retarded. That doesn't make any fucking sense. How could you say I don't do enough damage in an RPG where you have to stack your character correctly to get the damage? You're not stacking your character correctly. How could... That was a terrible review, Joe. Now granted, you don't have to like the game, but at that point, from watching your review, it seems like you went into this game playing it, not wanting to like it, and not even attempting to try to see what it reminds me very much of Xenoverse 1 and 2, but you did a review for Xenoverse 1 and 2, and it was kind of like the same shit. The game is this. You want it to be that. So since the game is not what I want it to be, the game is bad. No, Joe, you criticize the game for what it sets out to do and how it does it, not about how you wanted it to be. All right, like, I'm very terrible review. I'm very disappointed. It was very fucking trash. And I don't care if you don't like the game, Joe. You literally don't have to. I'm not sitting here getting upset. It's like, you don't like my game. But it's just like when I criticized Amazing Lucas a little while back. When he said Shadow of the Tomb Raider was bad because, like, you got to do a lot of stealth and stuff. What the fuck? It's just, like... Jesus Christ, man. It's your boy, Sophus. Hell Hydra.